This is one of those questions that sounds almost too obvious to ask until you actually start digging into the specifics. And then it turns into one of the most genuinely fascinating rabbit holes in human evolution. Picture yourself standing amidst the lush, dense canopies of ancient Africa, where early humans first roamed, a place where the sun beats down relentlessly and the dappled shadows dance across the ground. This is where our story begins, with our ancestors' darker skin helping protect them from the sun's unforgiving UV rays. But as humans began to migrate and settle in different parts of the world, a curious transformation occurred. Skin tones began to lighten. So what exactly caused ancient humans to evolve from dark skin to light skin? And why does this shift happen so consistently across diverse populations as humans settle into new environments? Let's dive into our first concept, the melanin shield hypothesis, sometimes referred to by its scientific term, photoprotection mechanism. Melanin, the pigment responsible for skin color, plays a crucial role in absorbing and dissipating UV radiation, thus protecting the skin from damage and potential cancers. For our early ancestors in Africa, having dark skin rich in melanin provided an effective defense against the intense sunlight. A study in 2016 found that the average melanin index in populations around the equator was over 90, showcasing a high concentration meant to combat UV exposure. Conversely, as humans migrated northward into Europe and Asia, the necessity for such intense melanin pigmentation decreased. Inhabitants of these northern regions, like those of early Mesolithic Europe, had a melanin index significantly lower, averaging around 40. This reduction in melanin allowed for better synthesis of vitamin D in environments with lower sunlight exposure. But here's where it seems to get contradictory. Certain populations in far northern climates, like the Inuit people, still have relatively darker skin despite low sunlight exposure. This appears puzzling until you consider the Inuit diet, traditionally rich in vitamin D from fish and marine mammals, which reduces the evolutionary pressure to lighten skin for increased vitamin D synthesis. This nuance helps us understand that while the melanin shield is a significant factor, dietary sources can also influence skin color adaptation. Which leads us back to our question: how did these adaptations contribute to survival and fertility in different climates? And what role did other evolutionary pressures play in this story? Our second concept is sexual selection dynamics, occasionally called selective aesthetic evolution. This theory explores how mate preferences could drive changes in skin coloration over generations. Certain skin tones became associated with beauty or status, affecting reproductive choices. For instance, historical records from ancient India mention a preference for lighter skin among the elite, which might have encouraged lighter skin tones over generations. A fascinating contrast can be seen in sub-Saharan Africa, where ethnographic studies highlight a cultural preference to darker skin, often linked with health and vitality, which could influence mate selection in the opposite direction. In the Yoruba tribe, for instance, darker skin is sometimes perceived as a marker of beauty, ironically emphasizing the subjective nature of sexual selection. However, consider the Maori of New Zealand, where skin tone variation was less prominent in mate selection, compared to factors like lineage or social status. This deviation suggests that while sexual selection can influence skin color, it is not a uniform driver across all cultures or environments. How did these sexual selection dynamics intersect with survival strategies to influence variations in skin color? And how much of this change was purely aesthetic versus adaptive? Next, we delve into the selective vitamin D theory, a concept sometimes known as the heliophilic adaptation. The need for sunlight-driven vitamin D synthesis is a major factor for lighter skin evolution. Vitamin D is crucial for bone health and immune function, and its production is initiated when UV rays penetrate the skin. Lighter skin enables more efficient vitamin D synthesis in environments with less sunlight. One striking example is the Neolithic populations of Central Europe, who shifted to farming diets lower in vitamin D compared to hunter-gatherer diets. Analysis of skeletal remains shows increases in lighter skin gene frequency, providing a survival advantage by optimizing vitamin D synthesis from limited sunlight. crucial for bone development in children. However, we find a counterpoint in the Indo-Tibetan Plateau, where despite high altitudes and intense sunlight, populations have maintained darker skin. This might be related to high UV exposure, negating the need for lighter skin to catalyze vitamin D, showing us that environmental factors can sometimes override dietary influences. How do these environmental and dietary pressures work in tandem to shape human skin color? And what other unexpected factors might influence this evolution? Then, we consider genetic drift and founder effects, scientifically framed as population bottleneck dynamics. These phenomena occur when small groups break away from larger populations, carrying only a subset of the genetic diversity. This can result in rapid changes in traits like skin color, especially when a small group colonizes a new environment. A famous case is the peopling of the Americas, where genetic drift among the initial settlers contributed to distinct skin color variations seen among Native American tribes. Genetic studies show evidence of a bottleneck effect, with reduced genetic variation compared to ancestral Asian populations. Yet the Ainu of Japan present a complex picture. Despite being isolated, they exhibit a wide range of skin tones. This suggests that while genetic drift can play a role, it can be counterbalanced by other evolutionary forces, like intermarriage or converging environmental pressures. What does this tell us about the consistency of skin color changes during human migration? And how do these shifts interact with another powerful force in human evolution? Now, let's explore epigenetic markers of adaptation, a concept often referred to as transient genetic expression. Unlike permanent DNA changes, epigenetic modifications can dynamically influence gene expression in response to environmental factors. These modifications can affect melanin production without altering the underlying genetic code. In recent research, populations living in high-altitude regions such as the Andean Mountains have shown epigenetic changes that regulate key genes associated with skin and oxygen efficiency, an adaptation to high UV and low oxygen environments. These changes are not permanent, but can be passed to subsequent generations if the environmental pressures persist. Interestingly, in the Kalahari Desert, the San people display a unique blend of genetic and epigenetic traits that contribute to their resilience against extreme sun exposure. Despite having relatively lighter skin, due to a variety of epigenetic markers, they efficiently manage UV exposure through changes in their DNA expression. This leads to intriguing questions about the flexibility of human adaptation. How do these epigenetic shifts provide a more responsive mechanism for adapting to diverse climates? And could these transient changes play a more significant role in the evolution of human skin color than we previously thought? Finally, we reach cultural adaptation and identity, also known as sociobiological influence. Culture has a unique way of influencing and reinforcing genetic traits. Societies might uphold certain skin tones as ideal due to their association with historical narratives or social identity. For instance, in Egypt, during the era of the pharaohs, lighter skin was often associated with the upper classes who stayed indoors, in contrast to the darker skin of outdoor laborers. Over time, this cultural valuation of lighter skin could influence societal norms, and by extension, evolutionary pressures. Interestingly, in regions like Brazil, where a history of extensive racial mixing exists, skin color perceptions are incredibly fluid and often decoupled from historical class connotations, highlighting how cultural identity can evolve separately from biological adaptations. How do cultural perceptions shape biological evolution? And in turn, how does evolutionary change influence culture? This interplay between biology and culture richly frames our understanding of skin color evolution. So, as we connect back to that opening scene in Africa's sunlit jungles, it's clear that the evolution of human skin color isn't just about the sun's rays or a single dietary change. It's an intricate tapestry woven from environmental pressures, genetic shifts, cultural dynamics, and survival strategies. Each piece dramatically influences the outcome, showcasing adaptability and resilience at the heart of human evolution.